Get the book down there. You just call in to listen? Can you hear me now?
Exactly.
Hello, hello, hello. I don't know. It is 5:32. We're going to go ahead and call the finance meeting to order. First on the agenda, the mayor has asked that we talk about disc golf. So I'm going to let the mayor kind of run the show on this.
Sure. So the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council has a resolution that they would like to propose. So if the council would like to come forward.
Sit up here on the table in front. Yes. Just so you can face us, be fine. Thank you. You can move some chairs around if you need to. Have a seat, get comfortable. You can move some chairs around, sir, if you like.
Yeah. So the microphone's right in the middle there.
Oh, okay. So,
If you could, just for the sake of all of us that don't know you, if you could all introduce yourselves to us, that'd be great.
My name is Brian Gluth. I am a senior at Pioneer Junior Senior High School.
Thank you, Brian.
I'm Alexa Sanchez-Agreda. I'm a sophomore at Logansport High School.
I'm Shivani Gutierrez. I'm a senior at Pioneer.
I'm Holly Van Kuren, and I'm also a senior, but at Logansport High School.
I'm Aiden Snowberger, and I'm a sophomore at Logansport.
Kason Lake, I'm a junior at Logansport High School.
And you can see we've all, for the sake of you guys, we all have our names in front of us here. Okay, so what do you got for us?
So we have Resolution 2023-1. It is a resolution of the 2023 Mayor's Youth Advisory Council of Logansport, Indiana, approving the creation of this golf course.
Whereas the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, recognizes the benefit of the creation and placement of this golf course benefiting the health and wellness of Logansport citizens.
Whereas members of the Logansport Disc Golf Club and numerous local businesses have continuously pledged support for the creation of the disc golf course, and
Whereas allocating budget of $85,000 for the development of the disc golf course at unused property donated by Ivy Tech Community College would add to the range of activities and youth engagement opportunities for Logansport, Indiana, and
Whereas construction would commence on May 1st, 2023, and the disc golf course would open to Logansport citizens and surrounding counties at the soonest convenience of the city and construction completion.
Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana, that Section 1, the Common Council of the City of Logansport designates $85,000 for the creation and placement of a disc golf course at Ivy Tech Community College's property, with construction beginning May 1st, 2023, And Section 2, this resolution shall be in full force and effect after its passage by the Common Council of the City of Logansport, Indiana.
The first immediate priority of the Logansport Mayor's Youth Advisory Council is the placement of the planned disc golf course at Ivy Tech. This development is the ideal government project because it's low cost, low maintenance, utilizes unused land, creates local business revenue, and draws people to the city. In addition to all of these, a number of local disc golf players and even some local businesses have pledged their support to help construct this course.
Disc golf is a game that appeals to all young people as well as adults and families. Simply put, it's a cheap and easy way to get active. In addition to casual use, the potential to host tournaments is also a major benefit to the city. Disc golf tournaments draw in hundreds of people, most from elsewhere in the state. As a result, in communities with these tournaments, local hotels see increased occupancy and local businesses report higher sales. Not only this, but these tournaments can be a great way to support the cost of the course or help out local organizations through advertisements and sponsorships.
For example, a tournament held at France Park west of Logansport in early 2021 resulted in a $1,300 donation to the Emmaus Food Pantry. It's clear that this proposed course has a number of benefits for citizens, local businesses, and especially the youth.
Providing an activity such as this for teens helps to bridge the amenities gap between playground equipment utilized by young children and walking trails traditionally used by adults. With the removal of the Riverside Skate Park, this leaves a gap in amenities provided to this specific age group. This course is the first step to bridging this gap while providing activities for people of all ages.
With the low cost of its implementation and its wide appeal, this project has the momentum to be completed in 2023. By failing to move on this project, we would be doing a disservice to our fellow Logansport residents and our disc golf course fans.
Thank you, guys.
Jamie, would you like to add anything?
Not yet. I'm just listening.
Very good.
I'm sure there'll be questions.
Okay.
Great job.
So I see in your proposal, we got some paperwork here. It shows that you desired it to have $20,520 for the design cost. Do you have a contract of any kind with a breakdown on how that money is going to be spent?
Yes, so this was the original design cost that we had back before. So 2 years ago, it's the same agreement with Synthesis that we have. So we have literally put that on pause. It's the same one, same agreement that we had before. The only thing that's really changed is the cost of equipment and everything like that as far as what they've done. So they went back and they have the differences from 2020 and 2021's cost to now. And so that's what you're seeing there as far as those go. The design cost did increase. So it went from the 13,000, which is what originally was there, to the 20,000 for Synthesis. But the only thing that's really changed as far as the project goes is the parking.
So what are the different design elements included there, do you know?
Nothing as far as design. It's their cost, so Synthesis cost. So what I would suggest is that if council would like, we can go ahead and look at another person so that we can compare costs, see if there's maybe another engineering firm that you want to try to see if there's a different cost measure that you want to see, like.
Well,
We've just been working with Synthesis since 2020. That's why we haven't really gone out to anyone else as far as that goes.
anybody have any questions for these guys?
You mentioned a disc golf club. Is there a current disc club?
Yes.
Organized club? Okay.
Like about there.
They play out at Friends Park?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm part of the Logan Disc Golf Club.
Okay.
James Brown, by the way, up in here.
Okay.
We currently run our club out of Logan, or out of the France Park. So we take care of, well, France does a lot more on the course now, but we take care of a lot of the wood side of the course and clean up and upkeep and tournaments and everything like that. It's all ran through us.
Good tournaments through there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Good crowd show up?
Yeah, anywhere from, if they're sanctioned, 80 to 100 players. And with the use of multiple courses in the area, you only max out at, France Park has 24, we added the whole 25, so we can have 100 players there. But with 2 courses, you can run them at both courses at the same time. Put pros at one end, amateurs at the other, switch them the next day, make it a 2-day event, whatever.
Okay, thank you.
I'll stay close.
Mayor, you said
Stay
there was,
close.
you said there was just one estimate on this?
Yeah, just one as far as synthesis goes, yeah.
Okay. You opposed to getting another estimate just to compare? I think that'd be good business.
Sure, absolutely.
I would,
There's a difference with the parking arrangement.
Yes, so we have 2 options. One is at the entrance from, one is where we originally talked about as far as Ivy Tech goes. They are willing to donate some of that land north of their parking lot. That would be one entranceway. Jamie was able to get an estimate on a parking, correct?
Right.
6,000 for that. That is separate from what you're seeing in the 85,000 that's being asked. We have contractual in the mayor's budget that we can use for the parking lot. So we have 2 options for parking. One is coming off of Hamilton Street and Clay Street. That corner there, we have an easement available that the city owns that we can come off of. That is the entry of the trail, the Flory Reserve Trail. We can put a parking lot there, or we can go north of the Ivy Tech parking lot. It's all up to council on what you guys would prefer.
do you have any idea of how many parking spaces each one of those locations can handle?
So we originally talked about 10, but with talking to him, we can actually do more. What was, with that 6,000, how many can we put in?
I was looking closer to like 25, 30. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah. Plus, I didn't look to see if the road offers side parking as well on both side streets there, which is possible.
Well, if there's gonna be 100 people, that would be 75 more cars probably. So I'm not sure where they would park.
Right. Well, I thought about this as well. If I were hosting a tournament and there were going to be that many people there, I would probably contact the school and ask if it were okay that weekend to use the back lot for a tournament since it's 2 days out of the year. I'm sure they wouldn't have a problem with it. There's hardly any cars there in the weekend. For daily use, obviously, we would want to stick to the course parking lot, but I think for special stipulations like that, and I haven't spoken with them, but I'm sure they would be willing to work with us on that. If that was an issue, then we could look at adding additional gravel lot or something down the line on the school side of things, on the land that you said would possibly give a little bit of area back behind the lots to put in one.
And then out of you guys, how many of you are members of the club?
We're part of the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council.
No, the disc golf club.
None of us are part of it.
No, none of you are part.
It's kind of hard to pull into youth at France Park when you have to travel outside the city and pay to get in to play disc golf. Most cities offer a free park, and you can kind of build a club a little better somewhere where there's kids that can get involved and we can run youth programs and things like that at those city courses.
And once it's built, who's gonna maintain this disc golf course?
The club.
The club will maintain the disc golf course. Cut
And
grass, trim.
Majority of the upkeep is sticks. It's gonna be mostly in woods. There's maybe one hole with grass, maybe. That would be pending.
What, actually, Jamie and I have talked about this a couple times, just by chance the first time, and then I spoke to him again about a week ago. You know, you mentioned using some of your contractual services for the gravel and stuff, but what I would propose, Mayor, if if this is something you support with your youth advisory council, that you use your contractual services money, get another estimate, do the contractual services. Jamie tells me ideally we're kind of past the prime time to develop the course this year. So what we would propose then is to figure out the cost, get some actual numbers put down. I feel like a lot of this, I don't know if you look these up or they're just estimates. Well, first of all, I only came up with $67,000 instead of 83, but we would propose to budget so that Jamie could start this winter. He said the best time to do it's when there's no brush growing up, the leaves are all down, they can see for whatever it is they do to figure out, you go from here to here, or
Right. There are some things that can be done before then, which, like parking lot, things like that can be done before then. So that was things that
So we could get the parking done through the mayor's contractual then, is what we're talking about, and then come back this fall to council with a new amount, right?
the rest of it
Yeah.
for 2024. He felt like that would fit into his schedule. That way we don't have to do any additional appropriations, which.
my schedule and the donated time of others that aren't as busy going into the winter months, especially with equipment, mini skid steer, things like that.
The only question that I would have at this point beyond that would be to ask Kelly about liability of having volunteers working on these things. Or do we, just asking, Kelly.
Yeah, well, you try to use release forms and get the insurance company to be on board, but they always, when they ask them, because, it's like everything else, you gotta be careful, you gotta do it. They've done things with the trails down here and stuff, people working on those, and, where else did we recently used some release forms to do.
Do you sign those for like the spring and clean? I can't remember if they do that for Logan's Landing or.
Logan's Landing does, yeah.
Yeah.
Sign one.
Parks Department has form already ready.
You have a release form then?
What does they ever do?
I had one more question. You stated most of the stuff's in the woods. I see a charge for tree removal. Where would you be removing trees?
Like which trees?
Which trees? Are there trees to be removed if the majority of the course is going to be in the woods?
Yes, definitely trees that need to be removed. There's down trees, there's dead
Oh, I see.
trees, there's, we like some trees in our way, but we'll have to clear a path to get equipment, T-pads. Skid steer's gonna have to fit through if there's somewhere that was to jam up, but for the most part, it's just to clean out the brush, the overgrowth, and, anything that would be, a safety hazard. Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
Just one last question out of a curiosity. You got 36 tees, so is this like playing regular golf? You got the novice and the experts?
Amateur, professional tees.
All right, so are you in favor of handling the contractual services part of it for the synthesis or whoever?
Yeah, so we'll redo that.
Good.
I'll do what Scott suggested and look at someone else and see if we can get something cheaper there as well. For the design cost.
So at this point, there's really nothing we have to do other than,
Nope. I feel like this is a good step in the right direction, which is good. We needed.
give us that, I would assume they'll have visuals in for the parking and all that, and the course layout. And
So they've just been working really hard on this, and so I want them to, before they leave, because this Mayor's Youth Advisory Council, a lot of them won't be back next year, so.
they'll be back to play disc golf.
There you go.
Okay, so it looks like, guys, we've agreed here, the mayor's going to do the contractual services to get the design layout all figured out. When fall comes, we'll nail down the costs and budget for this properly next year. Is everybody, you guys okay with that? Or?
Great, yeah. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Try to get the land first,
We have the land.
not the parking.
Do you want the north of Ivy Tech? Do you want me to try for that, or do you want me to try out our own easement?
I guess the question becomes, if we have enough on our own, we don't need to.
That's what I'm saying. If we already have enough on our own,
Didn't we? I
I
thought
don't,
we,
yeah, I don't think we need to really.
because they had a
Off of-
parking lot right there too.
Jamie, would you say that would be the best options off of the two streets, off of that corner?
Yeah, yeah, like I said, the only issue would be is if we had a big tournament and if traffic was an issue, park down the road, which there's a good stretch, but there is no housing there. You know, going past the Girl Scouts area.
Yeah, we always get all the Girl Scouts too.
And then, yeah, so if they offered, I mean, someone will give us some parking for a day, I'm sure.
Yeah, but Amy, I will get a hold of Ivy Tech and see what they would like to do as well. Give us options.
Okay.
Thanks for the presentation, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Adjacent to where they were reserving some land for parking themselves. I always thought it was bare ground.
Yeah, so they're talking about, so their parking lot.
Hey, you guys get us some info from back, and you can get a little summary on where I'm at.
Oh, okay.
This is from,
City bus.
she didn't have any, she didn't have any ahead of time, so there's nothing up there, Dwayne. Hi, Becky. Oh, I guess we're ready, Becky, I'm sorry.
Ready? Okay.
My apologies.
That's quite all right. So I think you all know me. I am Becky Harris, but you know me from my previous role as Director of Logan's Landing. Back in June of 2022, I became the Executive Director at Cass County Council on Aging. It's a 501c3 nonprofit organization with two programs under the 501c3. The Downtown Senior Center at 6th and High, and Cass Area Transit, which is also housed at 6th and High. Cass Area Transit partnered with the city, I believe back under the Ted Franklin administration is when the city bus started. And basically what the city has been reimbursing Cass Area Transit for over the years has been an amount of $40,000, which covers the cost of the rides that passengers would normally pay $2 for a ride within city limits on the city bus. So this is allowing, the city paying that is allowing passengers to ride for free. so the city can say we have a free city bus. And then the city has also been giving us some of the cost, reimbursing us for some of the cost of the wages for the drivers of the bus. So this document was put together for me by our transportation director, Kathy Martinez. She was not able to be here tonight. She had an appointment out of town. But she's given the breakdown here of the number of rides that we gave in 2022, 10,168 rides. And if you did that times $2 per ride, that would be just a little over 20,000, 2336. And then the wages for the two, excuse me, for the two dedicated drivers for the city bus. And you can see that the total, when you add in all of the other costs, the maintenance, the insurance, the fuel, et cetera, the actual cost for two city buses per year is $92,560. And the amount that we are requesting from the city each year is $40,000. So it doesn't cover the total cost of the city bus by any stretch of the imagination, but it covers enough for everyone to be able to ride for free and offsets the portion, at least, of the wages of the two drivers. Basically, if you were to try to set up a city bus of your own, you'd have to purchase the buses, insure the buses, hire the drivers, train the drivers. There's particular DOT training that they have to undergo with how to secure wheelchairs, assist people with mobility issues, et cetera. So due to the economies of scale, our costs are lower than it would be for someone trying to just do the same thing with just two buses. We have an in-house mechanic at Pass Area Transit. We have a total of, I believe, almost 30, we have 28 buses. 3 of those are designated as the city bus with that paint scheme. 1 is the backup bus if another is out of service. We have 2 in operation. And I did also bring you the city bus schedule so you can see where we cover. The bus schedule is occasionally tweaked. Unfortunately, sometimes a business that has agreed to be a pickup and drop-off point there'll be a change in management and they'll call and say, we don't want those people getting on and off the bus in front of our store, seriously. So we contact another nearby business and ask if they would be so kind as to allow us to use them as a drop-off point. You'd think they would want the potential business coming in the door, but not always. We did recently change one of the East End stops from Aldi's to Rural King, and that was primarily because of Culver's now being in the same parking lot as Rural King. That's become a more popular destination, that parking lot. And it's close enough from there to Aldi's that most people could walk from the Rural King parking lot to Aldi's. Do you have any questions? Dave had indicated that once upon a time, this was something that once a year, the director would come, and I was new, I didn't know, and so I apologize for coming to the table late, but certainly it will be on my calendar from now on. If you need more frequent reports, I report to the county commissioners, for example, on a quarterly basis. I'd be happy to do something like that for you folks as well.
So your regular services are supported by the county then?
I'm sorry?
Your regular services where they pay are subsidized by the county?
We get most of our funding through INDOT, which is paid to the county, and then the county forwards that funding to us. And that is based on a pretty complex mathematical formula where we have to show them the exact number of miles that the buses have driven. We track the number of wheelchairs. We track the number of people going to medical-related appointments, the number of people that we transport to specific things like the Head Start program. We take a lot of kids to school. I was really surprised when I found that out. Head Start and also the regular public schools. A lot of times parents have to be at work, particularly if they work someplace like Tyson or one of the factories. They might have to be at work at, 2-3 hours before the schools are accepting kids. They don't want to leave the kids behind to get on the school bus by themselves. So they bring them with them into town, and then the kids ride our buses to the schools. We do a lot of tracking, breaking it down that way. We do get some funding from United Way. We get a monthly check from them based on information that we submit to them, and it's a little under $3,000 a month. So it's not a whole lot, but that is geared specifically towards people that we are taking to medical appointments. We get some funding from Area 5, but that's primarily because we are a senior nutrition site. Area 5 brings us in prepared food every day, and we then have to keep it at proper temperature, bring it to proper temperature, document all of that, and we serve it. But the money that is collected from the lunches goes directly to Area 5. We don't get a cut of that. So they do reimburse us for some of the costs associated with that. Most of it is insurance reimbursement for medical runs, particularly for Medicaid customers, Medicaid clients. And then, of course, we do have, other than the city bus, people can call in and schedule a ride. And those costs vary depending if they're in the city limits or out in the county. They can buy bus passes for that, or they can simply pay as they go.
You take people to work?
We do take a lot of people to work. Tyson is one of our biggest clients, Memorial Hospital. A lot of these smaller factories, we have smaller numbers of people who go to the factories. And then random here and there, when Wendy's opened, we had 3 people call in to schedule rides back and forth to Wendy's every day. So and I wasn't prepared with that data for you, but I can provide that to you if you'd like a better idea of how many we.
I just wondered if you were taking people to work. How does that pan out with all the children on the bus in the mornings?
The Head Start runs are.
A separate bus?
It's a separate bus, but under the NDOT regulations for any public transit, we cannot, it would be considered a charter bus if we prohibited anybody else from getting on. So if someone flagged us down and said they absolutely had to get on the bus, we are required by law to let them get on the bus, but we plan it very carefully. So with Head Start, we're not picking up just random people when we've got the Head Start kids on the bus. The Head Start folks provide us with basically a chaperone that's also on the bus at all times.
Okay.
And we do background checks on all our drivers.
What about their ability to provide a bus, Head Start? Do they have funds to provide a bus for their students?
For their own?
Yes.
They give us some funding, which again comes through Area 5, because Head Start is a division of Area 5. I know it's not a whole lot, but I could get that number for you if you'd like.
I'd like that, please. Sure. Thank you.
And you want the information about transporting to work as well, right?
Yes, please.
Some of the data on that.
How many buses did you say, Becky?
Altogether, we have 28 buses.
How far do you take people?
Oh, gosh, a lot of the medical appointments are out of town. People will have appointments in Indy, Lafayette, Fort Wayne. With United Way's assistance, we've recently kind of stepped up the folks that we're taking to VA appointments as well. So United Way is kind of paying a portion of the cost so that there's little or none out of pocket for the folks that are doing that.
Do you find people really know that much that you guys are doing all this?
We're busy enough that we're sometimes having to turn people down.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah. COVID, of course, hit us hard. It hit everybody hard. We had drivers out. We were considered an essential service, so we did our very best to keep limping by during COVID. I know since I've been there, we had another COVID outbreak where we had a lot of drivers suddenly testing positive, and we were going strictly by CDC guidelines, which can change frequently, but our policy is whatever they are on that day. So if someone tested positive, they had to stay off work for 5 days, have a negative test before they could come back. And sometimes we're having to do a lot of shuffling around when we have something like that. Can't really plan for that. You can plan around vacations. Can't plan around suddenly half a dozen people out sick.
How are your staffing? Do you have issues with finding drivers, or are you well staffed?
Finding drivers is always a challenge. It appears that the biggest issue currently is people that can't pass a drug test or suddenly decide when they get there that they don't want to take the drug test after all. It's explained to them very clearly when they apply that you will have to pass the drug test, and they'll assure us that they can. And then suddenly they don't show up, or they give the sample and leave, and then there's something wrong with the sample. We don't have the ability to make our own discretionary decision about that. It's my understanding that a lot of local businesses have recently changed their strictness levels as far as passing the drug and alcohol test. We can't. These are folks that are transporting other people. INDOT says no. They pass the test or they don't, and if they don't pass the test, they can't be hired. They're also, of course, subject to random drug testing anytime throughout the year, and if someone doesn't pass the test, they're gone. The INDOT physicals too, I believe that's every year that they have to go back and have their eyesight tested, their blood pressure, et cetera, et cetera. So we are reaching the point with several of our drivers where they're probably going to be retiring in a few years. So we're also trying to think in terms of sustainability and hiring some newer, younger drivers. We don't pay a whole lot, and that's part of the problem as well. And currently, we don't even have health insurance for our employees. We've been working very hard trying to find a way to be able to do that. But we're not big enough to be a group that's attractive to an insurer. We have grand total of 40-something employees, 44 employees total. That's everybody. That's the drivers, but it's also transportation support staff like the mechanic I mentioned, dispatchers, schedulers, people at the front desk, me, transportation director, financial director, kitchen help.
Any other questions for Becky?
I personally think it's a great service, and I know a lot of my husband's patients rely on that service, and they're very complimentary of it, so.
Good. Good. We take it really seriously. The majority of our drivers are, they're the regular customers, the regular passengers know them by name, give them Christmas cards. It's really kind of a family.
I think you'd be surprised that the social economic status of the riders, it's not what the person would probably think, oh, it's a lower SES. That's not the case. So everybody's using this.
Absolutely. A lot of people, as they age, are no longer comfortable driving. Some people just decide it's not worth it to have to get a tag for their car, insure their car if they're really not driving very often. And of course, with the high price of gas, it can become an easy place for people to make a cut.
Yeah, that's.
And then you've got folks with mobility issues that, they can get on the bus with their wheelchair or their walker. They'll have assistance from the driver to help them get on and get off at their location. And then we also do a lot with, like nursing homes will call and schedule for us to pick someone up from the nursing home and take them to their medical appointments.
Yeah, a lot of elderly females, I feel like, really enjoy that service.
Yes.
Thank you, Becky. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Becky.
That additional information. I have Dave's email, so I'll just send it to Dave and he can get it out to the rest of the
Yes.
All right.
We've normally done this in December.
We hadn't done it for quite a while, so
Okay.
we decided
so-
we're just gonna do one each month.
Oh, okay. I didn't know, because I thought we approved
Yeah,
it
it's,
in the
it's,
budget. and
it's,
I'm like,
it's
what?
way out of whack.
Okay,
It wasn't to decide whether or not she got money. I think she's already
yeah. I was
taken advantage of that.
Yeah, I was-
But, just thought it'd be nice for her to come in
Okay.
and tell us how things were going. I will say, I wouldn't have guessed 10,000 riders.
That's just the city bus.
Yeah.
That
what I
doesn't
mean.
count the scheduled appointments.
Yeah,
Right.
it's amazing. Thank you, Becky.
All right, I'll get you some more data and I'll send it to Scott and to you, Dave, and then you guys can share with the rest.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're up, Stephanie. Oh, I got something here. While you're getting situated, I'll give these guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is just a breakdown of the miscellaneous that we included in the city council's budget. And when we talked with Stephanie last year, we kind of promised her that we'd consider budgeting some money this year for sponsorship. So we've got some money set aside. If you want to kind of tell us about this year's Squeal on the Eel and the sponsorship aspect.
So School on the Eel is coming to Riverside Park on June 17th, Father's Day weekend. Last year, we had an attendance between 8,000 to 10,000 people that came through Cass County. That shows you that the desire is to, highlight the diversity of Logansport and give back to local charities. So, I guess I didn't say my name first. Should I have done that first? Who I am and who he is.
Yes.
Sorry. Stephanie Houghton, Community Liaison at Tyson. A little backwards, Mary. It's fine. And this is Jason Snyder. He's counterpart with the Squeal and the security chief at Tyson. Anyways, so the whole point is to give back to local charities. So we fundraise money. We ask for different sponsors from different businesses, local and non-local. We have businesses outside of Cass County that donate to this. And then all the money raised from ticket sales, from shirts that we sell, anything like that, all 100% goes back to 4 local non-for-profit charities. Last year we raised just over $60,000, so those charities got 15 apiece. This year we have 4 new charities that will receive the money. That's kind of a layout. It starts at 10 a.m., it ends at 10:30 p.m. We have 3 bands, we have beer and wine, barbecue sampling. We open up the carousel, we run the putt-putt, and that's free to all kids. This year, 12 and under is getting in for free. We went to more of a, we know some families have a lot of kids and they might not necessarily be able to afford the $10 to get in, even, it's cheap, but some it might be a struggle. So this year we're hoping to increase that attendance by allowing 12 and under to come in for free. I don't know what else. We have vendors, food vendors. We actually have a food vendor coming up from Florida this year to set up at our festival, which is kind of cool, making that trip. And those are the 4 charities that we are funding underneath the backpack program. We are going to break that up and fund the Logansport School Court, Felix Pantry, Lewis Cass, Pioneer, and Casson for their backpack food programs. So that one, the one Cass County food backpack program will be cut. So we're actually supporting more than just 4 charities this year, but those are listed up there. I'm trying to think what else I can tell you guys. If you didn't come last year, you missed out.
Can you?
So, I'm sorry, what, Dave?
I was just going to say, you can probably just explain to them the different levels.
So we have different sponsorship levels. We have some individuals that just want to give back to the community. They typically come in as a squealer. We have the Cass County Visitors Bureau that came in on the High of the Hog. We have an anonymous that comes in at the barbecue lover at 10,000. He stays anonymous. We have several businesses come in, you know, just all the different levels. We've had a bunch that are rolling in right now. So we don't have a set amount that we ask council. I knew it was budgeted in, so I don't have like an exact amount that we asked for from you guys, so to speak, but
Each of those levels includes tickets, shirts,
Yes.
and other perks.
the only one that doesn't include shirts is the squealer level. You'll get 2 tickets, but it doesn't include a shirt. And then from the sauce lover up is when, you know, the shirts and the tickets and different things like that. And, you know, since we coordinate it, I've had a business that came in at one level and it didn't include the booth space. But I'm like, I told him, yes, of course, I want you there anyway. So we just kind of threw that in there as well. So we're trying to accommodate any business that asks for something regardless of the amount. I just had one today asked if they could split the sponsorship. So if he gave the saucy and sweet, can half of be this business name and half of this business name? Yes, we're going to do what we have to do because it's our festival. We can run how we want. Right? Yeah, we did. We try to accommodate everybody, and we want the involvement. We want the city support. You know, obviously the not-for-profits want it because that helps them out a lot too.
You wearing a shirt from last year?
This is last year's shirt, yes.
Does it have the sponsors in the back?
This one is a prototype, so one of our nurses at Tyson made it. So I do not have the actual, like, legit one from last year on today. But yes, on these shirts right here, this concept, the sponsors are listed on the back.
Okay.
Yep, and then we have a car show, so we offer a shirt for that. And then we have a black shirt that's got a pig on it for more of the barbecue style.
Okay.
You guys have any level you want to look at? I think it breaks down each level on here if you're interested in it.
This is a council? Is that?
Well, it would be as a city. We just budgeted some funds through the council.
Okay.
So, I mean, got an array of levels here, and you got the paper in front of you that shows what the limit is, and if we can do anything within that limit. Or above it. I mean, I'm throwing it out there and asking you guys what your interest is.
This will be an annual festival. We'll have it every single year. Eventually, we're going to hopefully work up to 2-day festival. I can't give you an exact year on that, whether it's going to be 24 or 25, but that will be the future plan to offer it 2 days, have 2 days of vendors, have 2 days of music. This year, you know, it is only going to be this one day just because it's only our second year and we feel like we need more traction leading up to a 2-day. But with the bands we have in, I would expect minimally the same amount of attendance last year, if not more, since we have even barbecue people coming from Illinois that come over for this. Missouri, we have somebody from Missouri.
What was your give back to each of the nonprofits last year?
15.
15,000.
Yep, we completely cashed out. We left a little bit in the account just to cover any extra invoices. So I think our total raise was like 61,000 and some change. We took it at 60, and each charity got $15,000, which we presented them checks and tried to publicize it so that the city, everybody knew. The title sponsors, obviously Tyson. Tyson puts in the most money. He's got budgeted for next year already money that, you know, that he's doing. So hopefully that'll just keep increasing because as we get going, it's going to take more and more money to do it.
So what are the, depending on how much money, you know, the levels of sponsorship or whatever, like what are the, like do you get, how many free tickets do you get or?
So depending on whichever level, yeah, so you get, off the top of my head, I don't know what they are, but you'll get so many tickets to match the shirts. We did change it this year to where the number of tickets and the shirts match up.
There you go. It's all in the.
Yeah, it's all in the packet. And then as you get further, then like there, you get 6 shirts, 6 tickets, booth space, name in the program. We're putting the advertisements online. Obviously, it's on social media. Billboards should be going up soon. Creative Promotions, locals doing the shirts. So we're trying to keep everything as local as we can since it's ultimately for the community.
So, Dave, what type of booth space were you thinking? Was it gonna be parks related or what? did
I
you have-
honestly had no thoughts on a booth space.
Yeah, I was saying,
Because I'm on vacation.
I don't think we talked about it, but the booth space is open. So Cass County Visitors Bureau, they gave us, High on the Hog. They're going to have a booth there because obviously when people walk in the gate, that's the first thing we want them to see is the Visitors Bureau. Why are you coming to Cass County?
Well, I didn't know, like, if we wanted to try to showcase the city and some of the parks, like, maybe not really have someone man the booth, but photos of, I don't know, but, and then a couple other things. I do like the 12 and under. Yeah, because it gets, everybody that's had kids knows, hey, if you go there, then it's like, so I do like that.
Yeah.
And I do know the buddy bags, those mean a lot to those kids. And
I've been at the school, I've witnessed it.
Yeah.
And just like last year, I don't know if Jason's seen it, but we did have some families walk up with kids and they left. And that's not what we want. We want them to come in. Yes, the park is a zero. It's the only way to raise money is to charge people to come in. But with doing that, it's free carousel rides, it's free train rides, it's free putt-putt. There's inflatables. We're gonna have the Special Olympics crew down there with cornhole boards. So that's the whole idea, is just to get people down there, something fun that we're bringing to Cass County, and then to give back.
I like that idea of it.
Pride in the city and charity. That's good. Kelly, this might be a question for you. How are we looking at if we become a sponsor and put money towards charities? I know on social media there was complaints last year. There always is. One person thought everything should be free. The other one was complaining about, well, that's not my charity. What I would have gave it to with my tax dollars. Is that a legal problem? No?
Exercise your discretion. If they want to vote against you because you didn't like what you did, that's what you do every time you take a vote.
Yeah, I didn't see as much.
Okay.
As soon as I did my first post on Facebook, I got negative comments. We filter that. We watch the Facebook. There's 3 of us, Jason, me, and then Eric Goodwin that kind of monitor that Facebook. And immediately, I had a non-for-profit that was upset with me, sent me a private message because I didn't choose them. It's just, you're going to have that regardless. If we can sustain this festival and keep it rolling, then obviously our plan is to hit multiple non-for-profits. But you kind of have to pick and choose, you can't choose everybody. So, but no, I got that negative comments and messages immediately.
I just was worried about the taxpayer money, but if we designate that, I'm on board with it. I like it. I went last year. It was great.
Good.
I'm 2 blocks away from it, so I can walk. Didn't have to worry about parking.
Yeah. Charge people to park in your yard. You never know.
Yeah.
This year we did add, this is something that's not posted on there, but I have a mechanical bull coming down. So you'll be able to donate money to ride that. And then we'll give that to charity. So, we're going to hopefully add, you didn't know about this. We just added this. I just confirmed it. It is. So we're hoping, like I said, we can add something every year. And we're paying to rent that. And then he's going to have a donation bucket. And then anybody who wants to ride, donate. And then that money will go to the squeal. Give back.
You still want the basketball tournament?
No. We're doing pickleball. The YMCA is taking care of a pickleball tournament. The basketball tournament, we tried, we talked to a few people, but I guess this just not been a very good turnout maybe in the past. So we're going to shoot for that next year and kind of approach it more in the beginning.
Jan, good thing we got pickleball courts.
Yes.
Well, and they can expand that. They can expand that over the basketball courts too.
Yeah.
So they can have 4 to 6 more courts just on the basketball court. So lots of things going on there.
Awesome.
So what do you guys think about this, and what level would you consider if you're interested? And
Yeah, I'm interested. I don't know what package you take. Any other thoughts?
I was thinking 2. What were you thinking, Dave? I was thinking two. What were you thinking?
I was thinking higher, but.
I like Dave's thinking.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you can always go up, but you can't, I mean, I don't know, for the first year.
Let's take a peek at the, Dwayne, can you put the levels of sponsorship on there, please?
Yeah. Why don't we think about the 5 at least? And then let the mayor figure out some way to donate the shirts and the tickets to somebody out in the community, or rather than us take them.
Got a good-looking youth crew here tonight.
Yeah, there you go.
And we are going to have the key clubbers are coming down with the superheroes on to walk around and interact with the kids and go to the carousel. So that's going to be something added too that we didn't have last year. So we're trying to involve the youth and show them about the giving back and things like that.
So what do you guys think? What do you want to do?
Let's do the 5,000.
All right, we'll move forward with $5,000 sponsorship.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for your support, guys.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
hopefully you come down for this year's festival.
We will.
Hopefully you're there. Any other questions or anything?
No, we can.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
I appreciate
Yep,
your
thanks.
Hey, Dave, is that coming out of your miscellaneous for
Yeah.
council?
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. I just wanted to make sure that's what you were taking. it
Yeah,
from.
yeah,
So,
it's-
okay.
All right, looks like we're ready for, Broadband has informed us they're gonna reschedule, so we're at Dykeman Clubhouse. You guys wanna come forward? Did you find those, sheets I was talking to you about? The email with the financials on it from Jan? They would have come later on a different email.
Squeal on the fairway.
Yeah, that's the one from today, so that looks like it.
Thank you.
Yeah, those are the two.
But you, yeah.
Jam got something.
Roll it and just go screen to screen. Okay.
You just, yeah, that's the slideshow.
Before you start, let me just start with the, we've been talking about this Dykeman Park Municipal Golf Course for a while. Dean and I, were able to recruit these great people. There's others that are not able to be here this evening. Brad Rosie is our chairman. Kyle's becoming our tech guy, but he's also the vice president of the Parks Foundation. Chad Higgins from Logansport Savings Bank is on it. Michael Bowditch from Consolidated Union. Tammy Helvey from Security Federal Savings Bank. Chuck Liddell from Area 5. And Brandon Neer from Small Parks. So we have a really good group of people that knows people around town and hopefully can help us with this big project. So I'm going to let Brad take it away, and as we get through stuff, he's going to hand it off to whomever he needs to. So I'll try to keep it quick, right?
Okay. Thank you, Jan, and thanks everyone for giving us some time on the agenda tonight. As Jan said, there's a larger group that we've been working with. We call ourselves the fundraising committee at this point. But as you all know, we're here to talk about what is really just generally the Dykeman Park Clubhouse project. And I would say that this project is probably a little larger in scope than just a clubhouse. There's been a lot of discussion about infrastructure needs at the golf course and how those kind of extend out from the clubhouse. And I think the anticipation is that if this campaign, so to speak, works out the way that we all hope it'll work out, that we'll be able to address not only the brick and mortar of the clubhouse, but some of the larger, more expansive needs of the golf course. So, one of the things I like to do when I talk to people in these types of settings is just really get to the point from the beginning so that you understand why we're here and really where the rubber meets the road. And in this particular circumstance, we are here asking the city to invest a bunch of money in the golf course. And how much money we're asking for is, always a moving target. It's still a moving target. But as we've kind of moved through this cycle, as we look at some budget numbers, I think as a committee, we feel like that the city, in order to make this thing go, in order to really kick this off and make this whole campaign successful, we're hoping the city would consider a contribution of somewhere near $1 million or maybe even slightly north of that over a 3 to 5 year period. And so just to kind of get the numbers on the table so we all know where we stand, that's where we as a committee think that, that we need to get from the municipal side to really kick this off. So let me say a few things about the background here. I don't want you to think we just walked in here thinking we need a new clubhouse and we just need some money to put some bricks on the ground. This started really a couple of years ago when I think there was just some rumblings amongst the people that spent a lot of time up at March of 2020. Yep. There was some rumblings that I think that the clubhouse was a deteriorating structure and some challenges at the golf course. And so basically, I think that the conversations just started to develop, and Kyle and I essentially put together a survey. And we offered that survey up, Dean really offered the survey up at the clubhouse over the course of the summer, and received a number of responses, I think 200 to 300, if I recall, mostly from people that play at Dyckman on a daily basis, or maybe on a weekly basis. But what we did was, we were able to gauge from the survey, one, were there priorities in terms of improvements that need to be made at the golf course, and number two, what were we going to get in terms of help from people that spend a lot of time at the golf course? We wanted to know, are we going to be able to get into people's pockets, essentially? And so that was part of the design of the survey. And what we learned was, number one, what we thought we were going to hear, and that is the clubhouse needs replaced. Number two, that the cart paths are in disrepair, or they're deteriorating is probably a better word. And then number three, parking, and then some other, smaller infrastructure improvements around the course need to be made. Some of them were just people wanting to improve the greens and people wanting to improve the driving range and things like that. But at the end of the day, we got what we thought we were going to get, and that is we need a new facility. But we didn't jump at that and just say, okay, we're looking to demo this place and then start over. We then set up basically a steering committee, which consists of people that are not all included in our fundraising committee. I think actually Mr. Forrest was on that committee. Bill was spent time on that. Mr. Thomas all back there in the back. So we had a nice, well-rounded group. There was, 10 or 15 people, if I recall, that were part of that. And we really just kind of looked at, is this viable? And if so, do we need a new clubhouse? Are there things we can do to renovate? Those types of things. Well, while this was ongoing, kind of in a parallel way, Jan and her team were starting, and frankly Kyle, were starting to do some fundraisers up at the course so that we can raise some money to do some engineering and some of the early work again to help us with whether or not this was a viable project. Some budget work and some engineering work. And so over the course of the last couple of years, they've been able to raise $25,000 or $30,000 to help kind of fund that part of the process. And so ultimately that culminated in this steering committee deciding that, hey, this is feasible, this is viable, and let's take this thing to the next step. Well, what we learned in the process of that is that we were probably looking at a budget of anywhere from about 2.8 to $3.2 million to build a new clubhouse. Brick and mortar clubhouse, maybe some parking around that. But basically 2.8 to 3.2 were the numbers we were given. These were COVID numbers, so to speak. There's been a lot of talk about what that means now, but that's where we are on paper. And that's essentially what propelled us into this kind of fundraising aspect, which is where we are today. Again, I don't know how many times we've met, but I want to say the fundraising committee's probably met no less than 6 or 7 times. We usually spend a couple of hours per meeting having a good time and also really trying to stay focused on how we're going to get this thing done. So that's the background, that's the landscape behind this project. I think we've been responsible about where we started and where we want to head. And so that leads me to our slide presentation, which is really more focused on the city and kind of what we as a committee see the responsibility of the city to be and the community at large and how we get from point A to point Z with your help. So with that being said, the first slide here basically talks about what our duty is. And as you know, this park was dedicated, some of you may know, this park was dedicated, I think 98 years ago, in 2020, 97 years ago. In 2026, we're going to have the 100th anniversary, basically, of the dedication of Dyckman Farm, which is probably just coincidental that this project is ongoing. But it's a good, I think timing-wise, it all makes sense. It's a nice selling point. And so we've been operating out there a long time. The Dyckman family donated this property. And in my humble opinion, the city and our community has a duty to preserve it. It's a park. We took that on a long time ago. We've maintained the preservation of that over time. Not as much in the recent past, but that's why we're here today. Everything needs a fresh start, and so that's our duty. And I'm asking you to consider that. Second slide. Really, what does the course mean to our community? Just real quick, I think all of you know that we do a ton of fundraising out at the course throughout the year. These are mostly more public events, if you will. And you can see all the different community organizations that use the course. We were looking at just some rough numbers. About $100,000 a year is raised out there in the course of these events and some of the other ones that we haven't mentioned. How does the course benefit our community? I feel like most of you that have run for office understand all this, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time with it. But it's obvious that the first thing that we do is we look at the kids and the youth in the community, and we've really been able to, the course has really for years and years really been a place where young kids grow up. And I know in a couple of presentations prior that I've given, I've frankly been a little emotional about my connection to the golf course and just how important it has been in my life. I think there are a lot of other people in this community that feel the same way, and I can tell you, just recently, in terms of some of our high school players, we've had 2 or 3 kids that are now college players, not including Dean's boy who's playing in college, but we've had a couple of other kids that have recently gone out. Parker Wilburn last year won the national championship in the Christian NCAA Christian Men's College Association. He's a Dyckman guy. He went down to Florida and won the national championship last year in a golf in their tournament. There's a woman, I always forget her name, Christina Nisley, who was a high school golfer a few years ago. She's playing over in Ohio, and I think her team won a national title last year, Division II national title. She played on that team and was a contributor. Dean's son is playing up north. We've got a lot of other kids that have trickled out into the golf community. Probably the one that comes to mind is Kyle Kramer. I don't know if any of you know Arden Kramer's son, Kyle. Graduated many years ago. It's probably been 10 years or so, maybe. 6, yeah, maybe longer. Kyle is a pro down at
2005.
2005. Kyle is the pro down at Valhalla, a country club in Louisville, which is one of the most prominent golf courses in all of the world, frankly. They have PGA events all the time. They've had a Ryder Cup outing. So the point I'm trying to make is that this place matters more than just somebody hitting a ball down a fairway. There's a lot of things that go on with young kids out at that golf course or that park. that go beyond just playing golf. And I know I was one of those kids that benefited from that immensely in the summer. It provided free childcare for my parents every summer. When I was in grade school and middle school, and I know I've mentioned Bill, I always bring him in, but Bill and I's friendship largely revolved around the golf course. That's where we grew up together. And I think it's a really special place because it offers those opportunities. So, beyond that, we talk about tourism. And these things are important to city council members, and they should be, finance committee members. And that is, well, what does it mean in terms of dollars and cents? Clearly, a golf course is going to bring in tourism. It's going to be a point where people can meet and play and do some things that will bring some dollars into the community. We have the Dykeman Park Invitational every year. I know, I don't keep track anymore, but I know there was a time when we would get, 75 teams or so.
We have about 90 teams in it every year, sometimes even closer to 100. Usually Maine, there's 70 plus teams in it. They're all kind of now. They fill the hotels.
They shack up in the hotels, and they go to the restaurants and the bars, and they have a good time. And I played in that event myself, but it is a very good event, and attracts a lot of people from out of town. So there's a real direct benefit there. Environmental benefits, these are just some things as a unit we've kind of brainstormed, and it's not really a selling point, it's just the reality of what's important when we talk about parks and green space and those types of things. And I would point out to the committee to think about one thing, and that is that recreation right now is as popular as it's been in years in our society. Obviously, COVID is part of the reason for that. But with recreation comes the return that you get from these green spaces, and here are some thoughts, just on how those things improve your community. I happen to be a real outdoorsman, I feel like. I really value the things that go on outside of the doors of my home and my office. And, even things like wildlife habitats. I'm not here to sell you, a pond with some pretty frogs and all the ecosystems and all that. But I can tell you, if you spend time at Dykeman because of the way it's situated and the rural setting that it's in, you're going to have a lot of close encounters with lots of different types of wildlife. I know when I was a kid, I went golf ball hunting and mushroom hunting when I was out there. And I know my boy's out there right now, and he was in the woods a couple of weeks ago because he brought home a pair of sunglasses that he found. He was out playing around, and back in the day we used to go sledding at Dykeman. There are all kinds of activities that are associated with kind of the habitat and the environment out there I think are important. But community aesthetics is probably one of the biggest ones. It just offers up a place for us to show outsiders and locals that, hey, you can live at, you can engage in some healthy activities here. So, same basic thing here, Kyle, if you just move on. Okay, this is an interesting chart. Kyle dug this chart up in terms of, the chart basically is geared toward, it's hard to see the bottom down, but basically this chart is geared toward a survey where they asked individuals about what the most important part about golfing is to them. And if you look at the top left, the 18 to 34-year-olds basically said 40% of them said social. The social side of golf is what's important to me. The 35 to 49-year-olds said mental and emotional. And then the 50-year-olds, that's my class now as of a couple weeks ago. And you'll see here where you start to see a trend or a change to transition to the physical side of golf. And what that means, and the same thing is true, it even grows when you get to 65 plus. And here's the point of this slide, not to really get into all the statistics, but I think that slide speaks to the maturation of humans, right? When you're younger, you need a place to go socialize. It's a priority in a lot of people's lives, especially young professionals. You want to go out and spend time with like-minded people, and you want to do it for the interaction. But as you get older, you start to recognize how important these outdoor activities, in this case golf, are to your overall mental health. And just how it's a release. It's a place to kind of forget about what's going on at work, or forget about what's going on at home. And then as you continue to age, you can see that it becomes a real practical issue for people. And that is, hey, I need to go out and get some exercise today. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go run 5 miles, but it does mean you're going to get outside where you can breathe and walk and, just do some things that are physical. And I think you can see this in the chart. And I just think that's an interesting chart, but it speaks to why these types of projects are important to all ages of people. So move on to the next slide, Kyle. So what's our mission? It's just to modernize our facilities and essentially modernize the infrastructure. I think at this point is also part of our mission, and try to move this thing forward so that we can kind of give the golf course a facelift so that this community can benefit moving forward. Fundraising, we've already talked about that. Actually, our number's a little low. These slides are a little dated, so I think we're going the wrong way.
We have another one here on April 26th.
Yes, we do. Thanks, Jan. We got our third outing, right?
Yeah.
April 26th. Okay, so let's talk brick and mortar a little bit. So help me out with the construction companies I'm always forgetting. Who have we?
AJG designed this.
And who did the budget work?
Tecton, just Tecton.
Tecton.
Yeah.
So this is a rough draft. Although I think what you need to know about this is you're going to see some of the interior aspects of the project as well. What you need to know about this is that this has gone through some revisions. So when I say rough, I think we're moving toward what we would anticipate seeing on the ground once the brick and mortar is laid. So what you'll see in this that's most important about this is, first of all, it's a bigger facility than what we have now. And if you have any kind of sense of space up there, basically we're going to take the footprint we have now, probably going to broaden it slightly from south to north, north to south. Mostly probably north because we have a hill on the south side that we can't fall off the back of the hill. But most importantly, on the west side of the building, we would be extending out probably to about the edge of the current practice green. So to give you some idea, there's quite a bit more space in this proposal than there is in the existing clubhouse. As importantly, the basement. Dean, how many cars do you put down there in the basement right now?
Right now, 16.
Okay. We're looking at a space where we can put, I think, about 64, if I remember, 61, I think, is the number there. So looking to be more inclusive in that space with art storage. So that's another big, kind of the growth in that area in terms of the space that we're looking to create. And then here's an overhead. And I think what this shows, as much as anything, is just that, we need to rework this space with some of the parking, the pole barns. We have some plans for maybe removing that first pole barn and increasing our space there, maybe some parking areas, and kind of upgrading this entire area that surrounds the clubhouse. So that's where we are kind of with the design specs. We talked about the infrastructure also being a part of this project, and that is to say, again, not just a clubhouse. It's just one of those projects where, I'm not sure what the analogy is, if somebody, thinks of it here, speak up, but we don't want to, build a new clubhouse and have this beautiful clubhouse and then, kind of a bunch of scars around it with the cart paths that really need repaired, the parking, and the barns that need fixed. So we're really looking at ways to improve all that at once so that the aesthetics all kind of work together. So that's kind of where we are with that now. What have we done basically at this point? Well, we were lucky enough this past year to get an anonymous donation. It was a monetary donation. Was it $50,000? Primarily intended to plant trees. And so Dean's crew in the fall planted, what was it, 135 trees on the golf course. And frankly, it was it was an improvement that was much needed. We've lost a lot of trees. I'm not going to get into that side of things, but we've lost a lot of trees, and Dean's crew got out there in the fall and got 139 trees. There's still some money left over that we can invest in some additional trees, but manpower is kind of part of this too, and we ran out of time. Right? So a nice little jump start for two reasons. One, because there's some aesthetic improvements that are measurable for the people that may be interested in kicking some private monies in here. And number two, because it also shows that we have some interest. And this is preservation, trees are part of preservation, long-term preservation, so really happy about that. So with that being said, those are kind of the basics. Let me say a few other things, because I've presented to some other people. I presented this project to some other entities, and I think what you really need to consider here is the potential economic impact. And I think those words get tossed around all the time in these kinds of meetings, and I don't expect that that just because you build a clubhouse and all of a sudden money is going to start flowing into your community, and that new businesses are going to start popping up. But in my opinion, and if this is offensive to anybody, I'm willing to have discussions about it. But in my opinion, this community is in need of a focal point. We're in need of a recruiting tool, and I've shared with the bank board last week that I mentioned this before. When I was younger, my wife and I would get a call and say, from somebody at the hospital, or maybe whoever Bill's predecessor was, I don't recall frankly, but hey, would you take Dr. Smith and her husband or his wife around town and show them around? They're thinking about setting up shop here, and we'd pick them up and do a little tour of the town. And the school was always a big stopping point. High school and the facilities. It's important to parents, young professionals. The parks. There's always a couple parks we've taken to. But to be honest with you, having a tool like a new clubhouse with this green space in the setting that it's in, I think would be significant. And I think with recreation being where it is, and with young professionals desiring to get outside and network, I think that the golf course really is our opportunity as a community to not just provide a place for people to continue to play golf. 20,000 rounds a year, by the way, is how many we're generating out there, just to give you some idea of the kind of raw numbers. But we need a selling point. The YMCA is great. But there's just something to a large space where there's a social aspect to it and there's a recreational aspect to it that I think would really be significant for this community. And I think that that's going to give the city some ROI, some return on its investment. Other than that, there's a few loose ends here on my note sheet. I'm sure that one of the questions you're going to have, and if you don't, I would be surprised, is, well, where are we right now in terms of raising money? And that's the question you should be asking first. And I'll tell you where we are. We have basically, I'll call it 3 different buckets of potential donors that we're looking at. Bucket number 1 would be the municipalities. Bucket number 2 would be the businesses around town. And bucket number 3 are basically private donors. Individuals, families, that kind of thing. Bucket number 1, that's you. And, we're asking the city to essentially reinvest in this park for the next 50, 60 years. How old is the clubhouse? 60 years old?
Yes, early 60s.
Okay. So, that's the hope, is that we can get 50 or 60 years out of this. We have, Michael Bowditch and I spent some time with a county representative last week at an organized luncheon. We're not blind to the fact that the county doesn't have a real history of ponying up for projects like this, but I don't think any of us on this committee are going to take no for an answer. And if we get it, we get it. But we're greasing those wheels. We have another meeting set up with a larger group that's going to happen here probably in the next couple weeks. And I understand that that's a challenge, but I think that we have some ears that are interested, and maybe we'll be able to get the city or the county committed to some assistance. And so that's something that we're serious about, and we're not we're focused on trying to get that done. On the business side, I would say we haven't gotten anything really significant kicked off, but we have met with a couple of the representatives from the local banks. I actually met with the bank board last week, gave a presentation that lasted about 45 minutes. And I'm certainly not writing any of these checks, but I can tell you that the reaction that we're getting, I think, is very positive. And then on the private side, we've basically right now, I would say we're 1 for 2. We've approached one private individual that's already committed a 6-figure number to our project, and this really wasn't, one of our, I'll say, highest targets, but definitely, was not a real challenge to get that done. We have a couple of other private contributors that we've been, communicating with, some significantly, and I think have a lot of potential. But I will tell you, the question I've gotten at every turn, and I think some of the committee members who are talking about this stuff will tell you the same thing, is what's the city going to do? What's the city going to do? And that's a fair question in this situation because it's a city park. And one source of money just flat out told me, get me a commitment from the city, get me the documents, basically a resolution, I'll tell you how much I'm going to do. I mean, that is where we were. And, so the bank board that I met with last week asked the same question. Basically, once the city gets on board, we'll know this is for real, and it'll have legitimacy to it, and then we'll tell you how much we're going to give you. And that's been really the tone. Now, we haven't rolled out a private campaign at all, really. We have, for months now, worked on a donor list, if you will, a pledge list, and we've broken it down and twisted and turned, and we've looked at some projections, and all of us are kind of talking to some of the people that we think will be helpful, and we're ready to roll that out. We're pretty close. I mean, we maybe, I don't know, you guys, a meeting away or maybe 2 meetings away from really having that thing ready to just roll out and start knocking on doors. But we need a commitment from the city. And with that will come hopefully a commitment from RDC. We've already met with some of those representatives, had discussions, and we're fairly confident that they are going to contribute us what I would consider a very sizable amount. I don't know that they've given us a flat number, but it's not $1 million, but it's a nice jump start. But I think we need to get the city on board first. We get RBC on board. I can go to some of the people I've been talking to, and they can reach out to some of the businesses that we've got lined up. I think we could really make this thing work. And it's just a matter of trying to get, forgive me, but the wheels of government kind of move a little bit. And I understand that you have to be stewards of all of our, tax dollars. But show me a project, I'm challenging you, show me a project in this community in the last 10 or 15 years that's any more important than this. There are other projects and they all have importance, but show me one that's more important. We need a place to bring people that's got a little wow factor. And this is a perfect opportunity to do that. We've got a beautiful space, and it's in need of repair. We need to do it anyway, and so we actually need to consider that.
What was the total price again?
2.8 to 3.2 is the kind of the brick and mortar
And then,
budget.
Dave, remind me again, when do we roll off the Y and when do we roll off the hospital?
Both of those in this year.
They both in this year.
Yeah, we paid Logan Stamping, and I'm sure the Y will be invoicing us for their last payment soon.
Okay. And then this draw, I thought we were doing the cart paths this year.
We're hoping to work something out and get it done this year.
Okay. And then the drawings we saw there, I'm going to circle back to the back deck and the fireplace. So, is that included or not?
Right now, it's where the money ends up at too. That is something, this project started, like I said, March of 2020. So, things have changed. Things are always kind of a little fluid. The first clubhouse they designed for us was $4 million plus, so
We felt strongly we wouldn't be able to raise that much money. So
and because we want to put some into the course too.
I know, yeah. And I noticed there were decks on the sides
Yes.
of that one picture, but.
We can make a roll.
there's decks on both sides.
I think those are all part of the original design. I don't know that we're planning on cutting any of that out. I think the big debate, and maybe this, your questions are well taken, where we might go with this is, what do we have for community space up there? On the east side of the clubhouse, which would be the side that overlooks the first tee, we had built in a space that would occupy about 100 people, is that right? 110 people. We're not looking, we've gone through all this process, but we're not looking to be a wedding venue. We're not really looking to run a restaurant per se up here. You know, we're not looking to move that deep into the country club lifestyle, if you will. We're looking for a happy medium, something that does offer more space. The hospital comes up, we've talked about this a lot, they bring a ton of people. They got to put a tent outside when it rains and lightnings, whatever. We like to be able to put some people inside and do those kinds of outings. And we expand the food and the drink services, but again, we're not trying to run a restaurant. We're not looking to hire chefs. You know, I think we're thinking about, you know, you'd be able to come in there and get a pizza, maybe something more than just a hot dog or but not, you know, maybe a hamburger.
Right.
But, you know, just basic food, expand the drink options, and have a little bit more of a social circumstance out there, or opportunity for social socialization. So that was a process. We didn't just, I mean, we went through variations of this and discussions about catering, all these kinds of things, that sort of thing. So.
You also see we talked about golf simulator. That's a real opportunity for us to bring in some revenue during the winter months, or rainy days, whatever. And we did. That's what we did with this budget, is try to guesstimate at this point. We have no idea what kind of revenue that will bring in, but we would like to think it's going to bring in more than what I've estimated here. I was really conservative in my projections, but I think that that's really a key thing for us to make it a year-round operation. And so, along with the banquet room, and you know, that we could have a small retirement party, which is going to be mine, the first one I wrote and showed with these guys. And then, you know, so we could, you know, have events, we can meetings, we can do all kinds of things there that will bring people there. And I think that's one of the things that will bring more people to the golf course is, you know, when you have a family reunion or something and come there, those people are going to see what a great golf course this is. I'm going to come back this summer and play this, you know. So, and they didn't have any idea what it was before, but then they after that they will see it. So I think that's the other part of this to be really awesome for the community.
So over 3 years, and starting next budget year?
We're thinking, I'm sorry, what was the question?
I was wondering what budget year it was going to start next. So
These drop off at the end of this year, the two that we talked about.
And remind me again how much those are each year.
They were 170,000. The two of them.
Combined?
Yeah.
So this will be 3 something each year for 3 years.
Well, 3 to 5, I think is kind of off. I'm not, you know.
So you could do.
We can do 170,000 a year for 5 years, and it doesn't affect. I mean, we kind of go on the way we've been for the Y, and was 5 years. Was Logan Stamping 5 or 3, Bill?
The Y's already done.
Well, I mean, this was last year, but was Logan Stamping?
Y, Logan Stamping this year, 170.
Right. Was that a 5-year deal? Logan Stamping? Yeah. Those both drop off. You know, I've talked to Jan, I've talked to Dean, Brad. You know, depending on where I sit in these meetings, I met with Brandon and Jan a while back. You know, Brandon's question to me was, why could you do 200,000 for 5 years? And I said, I can ask. Then I've been in other meetings where it's been the other extreme, where it's 250 and 250, maybe 250 from RDC, 250 from the council. So those are the conversations that I've had depending on who I'm talking to. I told Jan, I can bring anything to the council, but it's ultimately up to the finance committee to determine how much we're going to give, or if we're going to give. So those are the current. I didn't bring the seated funding with me. Currently, this year we have about, I think we have 600,000 budgeted, but some of that's dependent, like the incentive fund. We had set some other money aside for Humane Society. Those aren't committed funds. They're there. If we want to present something to the council, we can do that through resolution and use a part of that or all of it. You take that out, and we've got about 550 committed, and we get about 900,000 a year in seated funding. Isn't that correct, Bill, on the seated?
Very close, yes.
Yeah.
To the extent there's really serious interest in this, I mean, with the number, with a 7-digit figure. And I'm not trying to oversell this, but there's some certain optics, and if RDC is able to do what we're hoping they'll be able to do, even a significant chunk of that, we can go to some of these private donors and say, look, we've raised almost a half of our project, and I just think there's momentum with those kinds of things, and it just shows the city's committed. I know they're big numbers, but it's your park, and it is. I mean, it's not going to generate revenue that you're going to be able to put towards any other programs, but it's simple return on your investment from a recreation standpoint. 20,000 rounds a year. I'm not trying to sell that this is going to turn Dykeman into Valhalla, or Arden Center Kyle's working. But I do think at this time, in this environment, under these circumstances, in this community, Country Club's not in great shape right now. I hope those people figure out the circumstances out there, but a lot of people leaving, headed to Rock Hollow. A lot of our Cass County, a lot of my friends, frankly, are buying memberships over there. And a lot of it's the social side. There's more to it than what you might imagine. People I hang out with, they want to go sit down afterwards and have a drink and laugh about, make fun of how somebody hit a putt or what happened last weekend when they were hanging out somewhere else. I mean, we just don't really have that at the golf course right now, and they're offering that up in other places. And it's really important.
I just have 2 more things to add. Thank you guys very much because that's a lot of time and energy you're putting into this. Thank you for doing that. And I support whatever. So.
Dan, do you want to kind of go over the budget that you've come up with? One of the things that the Community Priorities Group asked Jan to do was to come up with what she thought the budget might be in, say, year 2026 when it's in everything's full operation. So she's worked on that. I've helped her with it. Dean's worked on it. And this is what we've come up with. And I think it's a pretty conservative estimate.
Well, but, the actual budget you projected was basically a 10%, I was looking at 10% increase in most things. There's going to be some that are a little more, a little less, but that's generally where I wanted to be, was a 10% increase. One thing we feel like is important is that we have a clubhouse manager at some point, and so we're going to start with the part-time clubhouse manager, and maybe replace what was the part-time maintenance. So you see on this, there's an empty space and a part-time maintenance. That's what that would be. So it wouldn't be additional dollars at that point, except for the raises that have been provided by council in the past. So the other thing is that we have entered into, and Dean can speak more to this, but we entered into a service on our computer system so that we have some more software costs at this point of $6,000 a year. And then with simulators, we thought they'd be $2,000 a year for each simulator. We're hoping to do two simulators, but it might only be one. I don't know yet. But, so I put that software figure at $10,000. And everything else is pretty much right where, where we've been for the most part, doing the things that we've always done. I did add a little extra for beautification,
Landscaping.
That would be, that's what beautification would be, landscaping. And then you'll notice that Dean has operated the golf course on the premise that, and we always try to provide the funds needed to operate the golf course through the revenue generated at the golf course. So, and so if those revenue numbers are showing excess revenue, then we can get that capital stuff that we need to take care of. We have had, and so I put stars on capital improvements because as we can, as the revenue shows that we can purchase that stuff, then we will. So that's why, and you'll see I kind of put the amounts that I anticipate that we would need there by each of those capital items, machinery, equipment, like the golf cart mowers, golf carts, and batteries. So anyway, those are the ones that would may or may not be purchased according to the revenue. Okay. And then, and we haven't figured out exactly how we're going to pay for this, if it's going to be the BOT system like you've been able to do with the police station, or I just haven't got that far yet. So,
Jen, can I speak to that real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. That's one thing I forgot to mention is it is something that we're working on. I mean, we're not just ignoring the idea that this project has to take place under some model. I've been communicating with people in the community and in the legal profession about the possibility of a BOT project, and I can assure you, I think that the committee is committed. If that's the right way of putting it. This fundraising group is committed to trying to keep as much money, as much work of this work as we can in this community. And if the BOT project offers that opportunity, that's what we're going to try to do. I don't want these jobs bid out to people in Lafayette and Fort Worth. So we're focused on that. I don't want to suggest that we're not looking at it. It's almost kind of like, well, you really can't make some of those decisions until you know kind of where you're going in terms of funding. You got to have some idea of how much you're going to be able to raise and over what period of time before we can decide whether or not we're BOTing or we're going to some other more traditional approach. So,
so anyway, Dee and I talked about the fees, and you can see that in the next pages, the revenue we received in 2022, you see where we were at. And if we were to increase our fees by 15% over the next 3 years to 2026, these are the figures that we would get. By the time we were all done, that we would be at a little over $700,000 a year as revenue, which definitely covers our expenses to operate, as well as a little bit of money to be saving towards capital improvements as well.
We didn't raise rates this year either. We raised them last year, and as everybody knows, with inflation, we're going to raise. I mean, our rates are starting to get back up next year again. I mean, we'll do that. So I mean, there'll be an increase over the 24, 25, 26 season as we raise. And then like we said, we're at 15% now, and we show an increase in the next 3 years. It could be higher, depending on how things go.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Dwayne, didn't we have about, we try to end the year with $50,000 to $75,000 balance in the non-reverting operating fund, so we have funds to
Start the next year.
Operate until money comes back in for season tickets. Were we at 60,000 this year at the end of the year?
It was a little lower than that.
It was lower than that. Okay. I thought it was like
Your income was better, but you had a few more expenses, I know, this year.
Okay.
So,
Does that make sense to everybody? Is there any questions on the financial part of it?
It's a lot of projections. We really don't, when we started this project 3 years ago, one of my two main goals with the clubhouse was one, I mean, we didn't know if we could redo the clubhouse. We had Shepard come up there in our first meeting and, we have wood between the concrete and stuff, and they're like, the wood's rotting. If you redo this, you have to take it down to the concrete floor anyway. So, I mean, we knew where we were going at that point, that, it's gonna be a bigger investment than, just a little fixer-upper and stuff. So, as we went through with this project and the money, or the clubhouse, I wanted to see us be able to have a banquet facility for the golfers and for outings. That was like the main thing. I mean, we have to use a tent, it's muddy, it's people, I have a lot of phone calls from people, hey, we have someplace we can have a catered dinner afterwards. Well, if you have a tent, yes, or if you go down to the Elks Club or something. So that was a priority, was a little banquet facility so we could hold the outing to have stuff. And also it was the golf cart spaces. And that was just thinking future. I mean, this clubhouse would be here, 100 years from now. And we were just thinking, I mean, when I took over back in 2006, the clubhouse. Yeah. 93 was Superintendent Park, 2006 was Clubhouse Park. We had 20 golf carts. We now have 57. So, I mean, we've grown that much. So, I mean, I wanted to make sure we can hold the future. I mean, if you had told, if we did this 15 years ago, I didn't dream we would have 57 golf carts. But, the 60, being able to hold 60 some carts is like the magic number for us and for the future too. You won't really need any more than that. And the other thing, it was kind of on the back burner, was a golf simulator. It was like, if we can have one, great. If not, well, wow. 3 years, COVID, everything, that thing just exploded. That business, I was over at one in Kokomo last month, and it was a little pizza place called Rouse, and they had the top line golf simulators, and they are packed nonstop. So what does that mean for us? I don't know. But I know that a lot of people, you have a nice golf simulator and you're going to fill it. And you could, the business on that, I mean, it's just not the ready time for the simulator. It's, we have a pizza oven, we're selling pizzas, we're selling more refreshments and pop and stuff like that. So, I mean, a lot of these, we think we went low on some of these numbers for potential.
I know I did.
Yeah, I mean, we would be completely shocked if we weren't low on some of them. But, I mean, it's changed in, 3 years, so,
I'm not sure, where, I don't spend a lot of time up here, so the mechanics of how this works is frankly a little foreign to me, but, to the extent that I can help make things easier, I don't want to put Kelly out of the job, I'm always looking out for my fellow practitioner, but I can prepare a resolution if you do commit to funding the project, and then you figure out kind of what that amount's going to be and where it's going to come from, and somebody wants to communicate that to me, maybe Dave or somebody, I'm happy to try to reduce that to writing, save Kelly a little time. And
if you really want to help, you would pay to do it.
Like you're thinking.
In any event, well, we gotta get this clubhouse built so we can make Kelly a retirement party. So my point is, I'm willing to do whatever I can on my side to just, make things, streamline things if that's something that matters. It's just a small offer.
I got your number.
And my email.
Thank you, Brad.
Anybody have any other questions?
I'm supportive of whatever council wants to do.
You got any thoughts you want to share?
It's kind of a big number to ask for right now. I'm not prepared to make any offer. I want to digest that, think about it.
Well, I think we ought to bring in the other two council before we.
Yeah, full
before we
council,
make a
see what they
decision.
think too, yeah.
But, here's what I'd like to maybe commit to. We think about this, we bring Jonathan, Carl into the mix, kind of go through it all with them.
Larry.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, Larry. Larry.
If we can jump on board, we can say, let's see what the county's doing.
But
I mean, I feel like I'm chasing my tail at this point, because every time I go somewhere, it's like, oh, what do they do?
Yeah, everybody
What
wants
do they do? I'm like, I'm just
We've
gonna-
already had one at home debacle with the county.
Yeah.
And they, let's see what they do.
I have we definitely took an approach to them that kind of earmarked a part of this project. Instead of just saying, give us money, frankly, what Mike and I thought was best was to try and convince them to get into the cart path side of this.
What?
The cart path side of this.
Okay.
Is to maybe focus their efforts there, because it's an infrastructure issue, and frankly, they even have some equipment they might be able to help save some money. We're thinking about all those things too, in-kind contributions, whatever. But we really need the city on board. I mean, I know we have two businesses in town that I think are going to be fairly generous.
I don't think it's a no, I think it's just the number at this point, right?
Yeah. Well, you just
How
got to
about-
see how important this is to your community and what it means. Like I said, I think from a recruiting standpoint, I really think there's some optics here that matter. And I think people want to recreate.
Okay,
There's-
Kate, what were
Well,
you?
Brad, let me ask you another question. Let's say we try to come to a decision on what we might do by May 1st. I mean, what kind of a timeline are you looking at? How long do you think it's going to take once we make a commitment for you to raise funds?
Yeah, I think that once we get a commitment from the city, I expect, that we're going to get 4 or 5 additional contributions. I don't know how large, but I think they're significant. They're going to come in fairly quickly. But I think the rest of the campaign will take the rest of the year. I think that's kind of what we're looking at. And we just, I think the rest of the private side of this campaign.
I didn't know whether you guys had like a calendar in your mind, that you kind of created in your minds. Because what was your goal as far as hoping to have it open and running before just basically before 2026?
The whole time, but obviously things get pushed back. I mean, we kind of thought about starting it late in '24, open in '25, kind of the, I don't know, finishing things up through the '25 season, and then 2026, our 100th year, it's all, the official grand opening of it would be, the spring of '26. I mean, I guess, I don't know if that's, realistic.
There's something I just thought of timing-wise. So as you mentioned, the city's coming to the end of its commitment to the Y, and you're not the only entity that's, at the end of their commitment to that project. There's there's a handful of others that are at the end, and they're ready. There's allocated monies to commit to the community in different projects. And so right now, again, there's a little bit of sense of urgency because there's monies available because these other entities are coming, the Y's coming off their books. So, and I'm not feeding you, I mean, I know that, I've heard that, I heard it last week, in the board meeting. We know we're gonna have a meeting with the family here in a couple months, month and a half or so maybe, and we know that that's, an issue to them. So, again, that's why time's kind of the essence, but it's also been percolating.
Yeah, I mean, we have our alley here for these things. I mean, we really want to be that time where we're spend the next several months hitting our donor stuff. I mean, you get the big ones, I mean, and we sit there and think, $3 million, we get $1 million from the city from commitment, okay, we're a third, then we get a couple more. I mean, we'll be at that 80% pretty quick. Then it will be the last 20% that we'll have to finish
Squeeze,
but.
And even though that we're at the end of some of our commitments, we have others. Erie Avenue, we have sidewalks, run schools, Memorial Home just for 3 there.
Yeah, those are things that we've talked about in the meetings we've had with Dave, and frankly, I presented the priorities group, is that what it's called? I'm sorry. You know, a month or so ago, and those are the kinds of things that we're aware that we're not the only project in town, but I think it's pretty important, you know? I frankly think it's more important than some sidewalks, you know? I know those I know those projects are important to, you know, that's part of your job, but, you know, this is a 50-year deal. You know, this comes up once in 50 years. And I just think we're timing is just right at the end of this Y cycle. People have a history of committing to public projects right now in this community because they committed to the Y. The money's going to be freed up, and if we don't move on this, we're going to miss that window because we're not the only ones.
No, there is a.
I understand. Yeah. I appreciate it.
Jake, you got any thoughts on this before you?
I mean, I'm supportive of, all these improvements that you want to do out there. I think it's going to be very important to the future of Logansport and bringing in people. So, I'm behind it, but yeah, you just have to figure out the financials. But, I'm very supportive of this.
What are we looking at realistically to get some kind of a, you know, to get this thing in front of a vote?
That's what I said, that'd be May, I was
The May meeting?
asking you, May 1st is our, we got a meeting in April, and then May 1st is our next council. Finance could meet again, discuss it, and decide what our, you know, and if we're gonna move forward, then we might incorporate your help to write a resolution.
Yeah.
But,
I'm thinking about where I'm gonna be.
but May 1,
Where we're gonna be in terms of communicating with some of these other sources of funds, you know, because they're kind of waiting on us too, so that's why I'm asking.
are you okay with that timeline, Amy, or?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, it's, we're saying, yes, we want to do that, so hopefully you can tell people, yes, the city is going to, because you probably want to say stuff in April at the outing, like,
But
I know.
We were hoping to get here in January.
So-
Yeah, you definitely have.
And so I'm happy to do whatever, because I love Dykeman, so I'm biased.
All right.
As long as-
Change the dental words.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm asking the question. I don't want to sound pushy. I'm just how you get things done.
You got a member off, military,
Yeah, that's what I
she's in the
hear, yeah.
guard, and the other 2 guys they'll be back. We'd like to have a full council and discuss that with the full council. I agree with everything you say, but the price, getting a little tight.
Price tag, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to come back and answer any questions if I need to do it again, or somebody from our group will do that.
And our committee would probably meet before the 26th outing, so you'd have a pretty good feel for at least what's going in front of council in the first.
Okay, so should we have a representative here at the next finance committee meeting? Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
I think if you Jan and Dean would probably be adequate.
Okay.
Well, you know, Carl, what else you need? Do you need more? Larry.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're fine. Okay. What do we got up here next? Let me find it. All right. Housing study.
I saw that. Yeah, they all expected that as a time benefit as well.
All right, I get to follow
Well,
that.
that's why you're
here.
You had something to do.
I know. Okay.
I'll take a break, they'll be right back.
Yeah. You were you able to get this to the rest of the council beforehand? You guys had a chance to.
I forwarded it to them and we got it on the screen here.
Okay. Well, it's simply, I think the last time we did a housing study was 2018 or 19, something about this is the same company that did the last one. And working on a couple of our housing initiatives, it's become clear that that previous study that we've done is now dated and essentially worthless for developers and for banks. And so sometime that with a lot of the things we have going on with, you know, economic development that we're hoping will come in future years, we need housing, but we need a impartial third party to tell developers and banks that we do need housing. And so this proposal is to update ours in basically the same form as the last time. We've talked with some people. The deliverables here will be acceptable to banks and developers for their purposes, and the cost for it is $15,000. There's some extra tangential things along with this at the end where you can see it could raise up to 20,000, I believe. But from our conversations, we don't need that. We just need 15. Yeah, Aaron and I were able to have a call with the company and with some people. That was a determination that we didn't need the extra stuff, unless that's something that council wanted to showcase the information. But realistically, the information is so that we can help people that are interested in building housing in Logansport get the deals done.
So I guess the only question I had, and I know we talked about this at one of the priority meetings, but so what's the general length of time that a housing study is good?
I don't know that there's.
The only movement we really had maybe since that time is the Revere homes.
Yeah, we've had the Revere homes. Now we have the, Lexington builds that we, have happening. And so the idea would be to look at that movement in conjunction with some of the other projects that are being looked at, with what they're trying to do at the farmers market, or, elsewhere in town. We have, people interested in the Jefferson School site, and this will just assist them in talking to their banks and getting buy-in. So it's not just, we know we have a need, for housing because of the way some of our single-family homes are, torn up. But when you look at the just general numbers, a lot of times, I've had meetings with certain developers that look at the census numbers, and if you haven't had any people added, they say you don't need any more housing, and they just move on. So this helps us tell our story, especially with what's happening in Kokomo and Lafayette and some other places. We think that there's likely even a greater need than we've had in the past that isn't reflected in that old study. We've had people here for a long time that drive to Kokomo and to Lafayette for work. And so I feel strongly that we're going to be able to pull in people from Stellantis investments and the chip manufacturing and such that's going on over in Lafayette. But we need this to prove it. We can say it all day, but I guess banks don't take our opinions as much as things like this.
So it'll be a little bit more than looking at our old study and saying, okay, we built 32 homes and they fit it, deduct them from this category, and now we're building homes, deduct them from this.
Exactly. So there'll be some of that, but there's also new opportunity that they'll have to take into consideration.
Economics here, yeah.
So that's the purpose, is to actually reflect what we know. Back then we knew we needed it. We got the information that said that we did, and so we were able to go forward with a couple of these projects. Now we still know we need it. There's some new information that's come to light, regionally since that time. So we just need that to be reflected in our studies and make things a lot easier on the housing front, which is where economic development starts. Because I'm not going to get anybody, I'm sure Bill and some of these other people can tell you, we don't have the housing and the workforce. You can hope for some of these big companies to relocate here, but it's just not going to happen because we lack some of this infrastructure. This is kind of step one in letting people know, build here because we have the opportunity.
Scott, you got any questions for?
No, I do not. I agree with you, though.
I think it's important to have a study done with everything going on.
I don't know, I haven't really thought about it. It's a lot of money.
What, how would you consider funding it?
Well, I think that there's a couple options. If it feels like a seated expense, obviously that's an option. I think it falls into our economic development plan. I know that the city council does have some miscellaneous funds. I just saw that, maybe we have an extra 15 grand, in that fund.
Actually kind of read my mind.
So I think I'll leave that up to you. I think it comes out of, a couple of different buckets and supports a lot of different projects going on in the community, which is why I decided to bring it to you guys and see how you felt about it, if you want the information, if you think it would be helpful for businesses and developers that are interested in building here. So whether it's seated or miscellaneous, if you'd rather use those funds since they're already budgeted, I think those would be good places.
Jacob, you have RDC about funding it at all?
Funding the study?
Since they're doing Lexington Village?
I thought about that, but I wasn't sure about how they would be able to utilize their funds for this, and I thought that we have, a bunch of different projects going on that aren't only RDC dependent, because it's not necessarily to help with like Lexington Village, because that one's going now with Farmers Market. It might help there that they have involvement in, but I think just overall on the community level, it makes sense to come from council for this, and hopefully, if we need infrastructure things, then we would go to redevelopment commission, but not necessarily for studies.
How old is our other study? Is that probably 4 years old, maybe?
It's 4 or 5. It was 2019 or
Say.
2018. I just had the email up.
I'm just curious. I know it's been quite a while.
Yeah. And with, COVID and all of the other things that have happened since that was done, it's a completely different environment. But I think it's a good environment for us. I think we'll get back a study that says good things about our potential in the marketplace, from what I've gathered.
Did you guys follow what he was saying about the 15,000? We had set aside up to 20,000 for sponsorship. We've elected to move forward with 5,000. So that now it's just kind of, it's available basically. We don't have to budget any more money.
Well, I guess the 15,000 is just for the service, but if you want the information, which I think you would.
So we get the information. The difference, the 15,000 will give us all of the relevant data and their methodology and all of that. The 18.5, they would just have to write it out and give some more detail. So it's just the time-consuming part of writing out more specifically on their methodology, which from what I've been told, the banks don't really need or read. They just need the tables. And the developers just need the tables and the information because they know how to read those. And then the 20,000 would be, if you want the text and the PowerPoint and have that presented. But the 15,000 does give us a presentation with the company so that they'll go over the findings.
Just get like a digital copy then?
Yeah. So we'll have all the PDFs and the tables and all the data, and then we'll have a blurb about their methodology for collecting it and what they look at. But as far as having a fully written out text report, they didn't feel that was necessary. The developers that we've talked to didn't feel that part was necessary. But I thought that I'd leave it in here to give to you guys in case that you wanted to spend the extra money to have the information or to have a more full presentation on it. But you'd be welcome to be looped into the initial, findings presentation for the 15,000. That would be a problem.
What's your thoughts, Jake?
I think it's a good thing to get because, like I said, with everything going on in the surrounding area,
what do you, about what Amy was saying, do you think that we need to get the summary of findings, or are you comfortable with just a digital thing where, like Jacob's saying, he can just utilize that information as needed?
It's important because, like you said, if businesses want to come here and there's not infrastructure, they won't come. And we need businesses bad. If you look around, it's empty everywhere. I support it. The,
Just
the
would you- for
15,000,
15.
please.
All right. Would everybody be in favor of using the 15,000 that was left over in the miscellaneous?
I'm not really sure what I'm getting, but
Well, I think once we got the study, you'd be able to bring it here and go through it with council, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Just put it on the screen and
Yeah, you'll get all the information. I don't know.
And you could
if I
actually-
personally will be the best person to do that, but we'll be able to get a presentation from them. I don't know if it'll be, depending on schedules and such, if it'll be able to be live. But regardless, we'll be able to get you a recorded version of it or whatnot, get you all the information.
probably just copy it ourselves, couldn't we, if we wanted? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. As soon as we get the tables and the PDFs and all that, it'll go straight to you guys, and then, depending on scheduling a meeting with the house, we can go over it if you're interested in more specifics on it.
I think that'd be helpful so we knew what we were.
Yeah. So that'll just, when the time comes, we'll set that up so that you guys have some access to that information. Absolutely.
Okay, we'll move that forward. We'll use 15,000 of the council's miscellaneous.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Joe.
Oh, Jan left. Okay, well, we should have Lincoln probably pulled up on the screen, but she had a transfer request, an appropriation. Looks like basically somebody must have paid for their own boots, it looks like, Dwayne.
Yeah, they had, let's see, which one is this?
And they're just wanting reimbursed, and they don't have enough money in the reimbursement line
There's
item.
a second one, here we go.
So
Yeah, they have a line item for their staff uniforms, but rather than having her pay for them, they had an employee go out and charge it himself, so we're gonna have to reimburse them for those boots, and they don't have enough money left in their reimbursement line also. So they need to move some money in there to cover the boots.
How much are we talking?
$155, $156.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
And that's coming from their staff uniforms, which is what they already had budgeted.
Okay.
It's just a matter of moving it into a line item we can reimburse the employee for.
Okay, yeah.
those are some nice boots.
One of the most controversial issues you brought in front of us.
Do I?
That's the most controversial.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll move that forward then. Travis, you're up, buddy. You awake back there?
I won't take as much time as everybody else.
Sorry for the delay.
No, you're understand. I just need to move, transfer, appropriate my funds to a different line item. We had bought we buy coins, challenge coins for awards and recognition and those type of things.
Are those for your officers?
Well, the officers like public relation type of events as well. Like our K-9, we have one specifically for our K-9 division. When we do K-9 events, like we may host different things or have, like this morning we had 11 K-9 teams in here today to do an event. So some of those guys may have got one or something like that. So the way we bought it a couple years ago, Dwayne wanted us to use a different line item. So we had taken it out of one, and basically what we wanted to do is to take that money to fill it, because that one is from our K-9 budget, and I don't want to go down on our budget because that pays for food and lodging for those animals or any health care and that kind of stuff. So we're just moving the money around to
Originally that was paid for, he had paid for it before out of the service item. And with the audits and stuff going through, we said it needed to be coming out of the supply. And so he didn't have enough budgeted in, especially in like the K-9 supply item, to cover that. So this would cover that cost.
Look, where's the decimal point in the first one?
It's at the end of the zero.
What's the zero?
The second one is 3,030.
Okay.
So
And then the other one's 2253.25.
Yeah. 5283.25 altogether. And you say you buy these every couple of years?
Yes. They're, I'll give you one day. We usually get them for like I said, for like awards and different things like that, so, I can show you more.
Yeah.
I think we have a, I can show you exactly what they are, so you know what we're talking
Okay.
about. But we buy them every few years. You have to buy so many at a time, because the manufacturer, you can't buy one, you have to buy like 10, 100, or whatever the case may be, so. Originally, we had bought some just to see, and then, we ran out, so we bought some more. So this would keep us for a couple of years.
Tell them to quit doing good stuff all the time.
Well,
Save some money here.
so we get, yeah, all the stuff I bring to you is not, yeah. Is
I'm
different.
surprised
I'll
you didn't
drop
have one of
the
those,
Kelly.
Guys, any thoughts on it? You okay with the transfer?
Those are expensive, but yeah, I don't care.
All right, thank you, Travis. All right, Bill, you made it.
Oh, we got another.
About the same length of time as the clubhouse
There
presentation.
you go. All right, Bill. Let's
Pull up.
Good thing you started at 5:30.
I'm here on behalf of a company called Four Brothers.
Oh, that's right.
It's been in existence for about 4 years. They're currently located in the county, towards France Park, kind of in a residential area, which is part of the problem. It's out of a pole barn currently, but it's exploding as far as the business. There is potential to bring them to Logansport. They're very interested in coming to Logansport, but we are in competition with other areas around us. I did send you a 43-page PowerPoint that you probably don't want me to go over tonight. So hopefully you did go over it, though. Hopefully you looked at it. It goes over who they are, their employment and wages, the history and growth of the company, the annual sales, and the property at 714 Burlington Avenue, which is the other interesting part of this. In general, they make, they're quality producers of holsters and everyday handgun carrier essentials. That's more in depth on the PowerPoint. Jason Pine is the owner and president. If you know Jason, he is an executive in town. He was at Small Parts for 27 years, and then he went off into this business. They currently have 10 individuals, and they project 25 employees within the next year. Their average wage is $25 an hour. This total investment, including acquisition, would be right at $535,000. They are going to use a local company, Steinberger Construction, which is also in the PowerPoint. Basically, not only is it bringing a new business into Logansport and up to 25 people, an average rate of $25 an hour, they are looking to buy 714 Burlington Avenue, if that's one of the plants that are vacant from Kaufman Engineering. When we heard of Kaufman Engineering closing, they mainly have two plants that are of size, this one and the one on Old 25 as you're going to Lafayette. We do have that sold. Can't really go into the record of what it is yet, but it is sold and it'll be a great business, but that is completely separate from this. It is not this group. This group is only 714 Burlington Avenue. In your PowerPoint, there was like a 10-minute walkthrough of the facility inside and out to show you the needs of that property. If you drive by it, it's in desperate need of something. It's vacant. As you pointed out, Scott, we don't need vacant buildings, we need industry, so hopefully you're on board with this. In essence, I am requesting $75,000. The good thing is it's the definition of what seated is to be used for, and we already have it in the budget under the incentive funding line item of $150,000. So I know it puts a pretty good dent in it, but when I look at new industry, good wages, and occupying a building that's vacant of someone that's going out of business, and it's an entry point into Logansport that you see when you come in. I think it's a great use of the incentive funding of $75,000. That's my brief summary.
Five guys next door.
What's that? 5 guys next to 4 brothers? Yeah. I'll work on that.
And we have $150,000 in the incentive fund.
It would represent 14% of the investment. That's within 1% of what we've done for a few others that come to mind that I don't think anybody can say that's a bad thing we did. Black Dog, Bonus Pints, Science Project, and Modern Real Estate. It's all within 1% of what the municipality investment was towards those businesses. And if you look at them, you look at the facades, the buildings that and the businesses are growing in each of those. So far, we're 4 for 4. Hopefully we'll go 5 for 5.
So they have to purchase the property yet? It's all permanent?
They have $200,000 the purchase price offer. It's not been closed. And then you have the $335,000 of estimates of improvements that I put in the power.
Holsters, just the guns.
Your assistance is part of the contingency of them moving forward.
Now, that would be a reimbursement at the end of the project? Is that how it typically works?
I would.
Or do you have specific items within that $75,000?
We could designate certain things if you'd like. If you would like to keep it on exterior so it's visible. I haven't written the resolution yet, but I could write it any way you would want. We could pay them directly. We could pay Steinberger directly for the items that you see. We could even throw them on the back end. We know they've already done their part. Whichever way you'd like to do it.
I'd prefer putting it on the back end so we know that the project's moving. What do you guys think?
What did you say?
I would prefer putting it on the back end of the project as it wraps up, but that's just me.
I think Yank has something to add. I know Jason personally, but I just want to put this in here. Jason is he's also the vice president of the Domestic Cost Task Force. I know he's done donations for us when we've done our self-defense classes and things like that. He's put some money into that to contribute back to the class both times. So he does a lot of things in the community. Just to add to this, I know him, but I don't have anything to do with his business. I didn't know if Bill knew that he actually has other entities within the community to, the task force and doing other things within the
A few of his part-timers are police officers under Travis that they employ.
$25 an hour jobs, why not? What's to discuss? New business, $25 an hour? Heck yeah.
Filling an empty spot.
More employees, yeah. Yeah, I'm all for it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm for definitely the back end of the project. I am concerned about the facade, but
Current one or the proposed?
I read the information, I didn't see that PowerPoint, so now I'm
I think
like.
it was
It's a link at the bottom.
So,
You have that
oh,
copy if you want.
no, that's,
It's got some renderings from Steinberger that's doing the work. They showed what it will look like. Kind of, it's a drawing. It's rough, but it'll be very appealing. Their inspiration of.
they itemize it, or,
They itemized the cost, yes.
so,
$335,000.
I mean, for the facade.
That includes permits, new doors, painting.
Okay, just the back end is fine. I'm getting tired.
Look at it, it's a link at the bottom.
Oh, I'm
Okay. Well, I guess we'll move that forward, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Dwayne? Dwayne, I penciled you in at the bottom there.
Yeah, I've got two funds that we need to have created. We had to kick off for the Ready Fund the other day on Friday, I guess it was. So we need a community block grant amount that we can put those under. The fund number would be 2411. And then we need a Lexington Village Fund that would correspond to that. That would be 2412. So that would allow us to create those funds to move money in for the Ready Grant, which we have $1 million, correct, Jacob, for the what? Well, it's $1.5 million for Lexington, but then we have another $1 million that's coming in.
Oh, yeah.
That would be used under the community development or the community block grant line item, and then Lexington Village would get the 1.5 million that would be used, along with the bond that's already been in place for the infrastructure.
Did you want to say anything about, you mentioned you wanted to get a resolution written on the non-recovery of the funds for the building on North Street?
What'd you say, Jay, or Dave?
The non-recovery of funds for North
Oh,
Street.
yeah, I forgot about that one, yeah. Also, I'd like to see if we could get a resolution put together, because we've been dinged every year from State Board of Accounts about the $18,000 property that was bought over on North Street that we didn't get possession of. And so we need to get that written off our books, because as long as it stays there, the State Board of Accounts is going to draw attention to it, and they've done it again this year. I'm sure it'll be in the written report this year. So we can alleviate that by simply having Kelly type us a letter saying, hey, we realize we can't get the money from the county. You guys recognize you can't get the money back from the county. It's just $18,000 we're going to have to write off. And then the State Board of Accounts will be happy that you recognize the loss, and they'll be off my back. So, no money involved, just simply a resolution for committing to say that you're done with it.
Kissing it off.
Yeah, and we also probably need to do one at some point in time for Preston, Chief Preston, which the other one, which I forget, I had to even look at the amount on that one. It's like 600,000 or so that was expended on that, and we'll never see that back either. And State Board of Accounts is still waiting for us to try to retrieve that money. So unless we write it off, they're going to keep writing us up saying it needs to be done.
As long as we're alive, there's hope.
Yeah. So those are the other two.
Communication with the IRS on the year-long, what was it?
The IRS is investigating.
Oh, we got an email last week where they're still looking at a 60-day window out before they try to make a final decision. I think that was it, wasn't it, Kelly, 60 days?
They're still reviewing.
They're still reviewing, and they're looking at they wanted another 60 days to deal with it. So, and hopefully we'll get that taken care of pretty soon, because that's part of what I listened to for 3 hours this afternoon about IRS issues and late payments and penalties. So.
All right, anybody got anything else? All right, it's 7:58. Call this meeting adjourned.
Good job, Kelly.
Chris Till Broadway Broadbands, thank you.
Right, exactly. They didn't.
Uh-huh.